For managers, they have the authority to ensure staff follow their instructions. So it's their role. The managers have their role, and they have the authority to ensure staff follow their instructions. And what is authority then? The question here. For authority, it refers to the relationship between participants within the organization. So to be exact, authority is the right to give orders and the power to exact obedience. That means for authority, if you are authorized by for example, by the senior management, you have the right to give orders to others, and you have the power to exact obedience. So here is the term or the explanation of authority. And it's also about the relationship as well. Depends on your seniority in an organization. And for responsibility, it is the liability of a person to be called to account for their actions. It expresses the obligation a person has to fulfill a given task, and responsibility cannot be delegated to others. So here is very important for me to highlight. Here, responsibility cannot be delegated to others. So what does that mean? You are responsible to do a task, and you can delegate the task to other persons. But your role is to monitor the task, whether the task is performed by your delegated persons correctly and smoothly. If there's any issue, then you are still be responsible. So here is an example. If a manager is responsible for a given task, they may choose to delegate it to a member of their team, and if they fail to perform the task in a satisfactory manner, the manager is still responsible or accountable for this failure. So responsibility cannot be shifted or delegated to others. It's the obligation a person has to fulfill. So after sharing with you the authority, responsibility, next terminology that I would like to highlight here is power. First of all, authority and power is different. Authority is the right to do something, while power is the ability to do something. So for authority, as I'm sharing with you, the definition of authority is the right to give instructions to others for doing something. But for power is the ability for a person to do something. For example, a manager may have the authority or the right to ask one of their team to undertake a certain task. However, the team member could simply refuse. Power is what enables the manager to ensure that the team member will comply with the request. So in other words, you have the authority, but if you don't have the power, the other team members will not follow you as well. So you should have both authority and power in order to do something. And there are different types of power. So let me share with you based on French and Raven theory. There are 5 types proposed by them. First, reward power. This occurs when one person is able to reward another person for carrying out their orders or meeting other requirements. For example, some managers may be able to offer pay rises to their subordinates. So the managers have the reward power in order to give instructions to their team members, and the team members have to follow because they have to respect the manager, as the manager has the reward power. The manager determines their pay rises. Next, coercive power. This is based on one person having the ability to punish another or another person for failing to carry out their orders satisfactorily. This could include the threat of pay cuts or demotion. So it is the opposite of the reward power. I'm not rewarding you, but I would like to punish you. So you are still fear about myself and you are still follow my instructions because you have your fear. I have the coercive power to give you instructions for you to follow because I can punish you. And the third type of power is expert power. The expert power occurs when one person is regarded by others as having special expertise or knowledge that others do not. One example here, like the professional accountant. When the professional accountant work with his client, the client respects the professional accountant because of the expert power. The client, for example, is a CEO who is a very strong sales background, but just little knowledge about accounting standards or corporate governance. So the CEO need to have the advice from the professional accountant and respect him, because the professional accountant can exert his expert power over the CEO on the accounting matters. Reference power. It is based on the personal qualities of the individual and often occurs when one person identifies with or wishes to imitate another. Reference power is usually observed in the modern days by, say, the key opinion leaders. For example, because of the key opinion leader, because of his personalities, very good qualities as well of an individual, many people respect these key opinion leaders. They want to imitate the key opinion leaders as well. So the KOL or key opinion leaders have the reference power by the fans or by his followers. Legitimate power. This is power derived from being in a position of authority within the organization. So, for example, other employees may follow the instructions of the senior managers simply because of their position at the top of the organization's hierarchy. So after sharing with you 5 types of power, so let's move on to discuss about the link between authority and responsibility. Here we would like to share with you the relationship between these two different concepts, and the balance between authority and responsibility is critical for managers to perform quality works. Especially for a manager, he has the authority maybe, whether he has the responsibility. So these two are mutually important to perform quality works by a manager. So if the authority and responsibility are not balanced, so let's see what will happen. If a manager is responsible for a task, but he has no authority to do it, so let's see what's happened. So when a manager is held responsible for, say, timekeeping, but does not have the authority to discipline subordinates who are regularly late, so what happened? The manager is likely to become frustrated and demotivated because they lack the power and authority needed to meet targets they have been made responsible for. So let me elaborate here a bit. For this manager, he has a task to monitor the subordinates about whether they are late or not. But he has no authority to have any disciplinary actions on the subordinates. And the manager is like just take the record only, and he cannot fulfill his goal or objective, say to reduce the number of staff being late. He cannot control it because he has no authority to discipline anyone. Then the manager will be frustrated and demotivated to have this task because he has no authority to do it. On another case, a person or manager has the authority but without any responsibility. So what's happened? Say, for example, a personnel department or HR department may have the authority to employ new members of staff, but are not held responsible for the quality of employees that they have selected. And managers who are not made accountable for decisions and actions may act in responsibility, as they do not expect to suffer any negative consequences. So for those staff in the personnel department, if it is the case, their task is just need to fulfill the vacant position, and they are not responsible for the quality of staff, whether they can fit into the organization and they can work well with the management or other colleagues in the organization. It's not their responsibility. So the personnel department, they just like an administrator to process the paperwork, the documents, to have the new headcount joining in to fill up the vacant position. That's it. So the HR or the personnel department, they don't care about any negative consequences suffered by the organization.